Oi, what's up, everybody? Dude, look at Smooth Jimmy over there. And that lock of the week is in his hands for a reason. I think my guy, Smooth Jimmy, just might have a very, very safe pick for you today. But Smooth Jimmy always wants to remind you that when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. But still, he likes this bet a lot. I like this bet a lot. We're going to break it down at the end. But first, we got a ton of stats to get into today. And what we are going to do is we are going to go balls deep on the UFC 265 co-main event, the matchup between Jose Aldo and Pedro Munhoz. I cannot wait for this fight. I can't wait to break down the stats with you guys. We got Grateful Dude in the room here saying that this is a great fight. I took a chance on Aldo by decision, and I know I'll be sweating it. Man, whenever you bet the fight goes to decision, it's always a sweat. It's always the hardest thing to watch. So much easier to root for someone to get knocked out than to root for a mixed martial arts fight to be non-violent and get to the bell. So yeah, it's always a sweat. But man, I tend to be with you on that bet, Grateful Dude, because I think Smooth Jimmy also likes that this fight might go to decision. So let's start like we always do when we break down these fights with the tail of the tape. We have got two guys that are actually 2 years apart. We got Pedro, the young Punisher Munhoz. And I think that's one of the ways he actually confuses his opponents, as he is 2 days older than Jose Aldo here. He's no longer young. He is 34 years old, just like Jose Aldo is. Jose Aldo is going to have 1 inch of height and a very, very significant 5 inches of reach here. That is a very big deal in this fight. Jose Aldo is a tremendous striker. He uses his jab very well. He's got great kicks, and having that 5 inch reach advantage is going to be a significant advantage in this fight, because I do see this fight being mostly a striking battle. And Jose Aldo will be able to use that jab to maybe keep Pedro Munhoz at range, even though Pedro Munhoz is known for that pressure and pace that he puts on his opponents. And if we look at the pro experience here, we will see a pro experience edge for Jose Aldo, as he has 11 more pro fights. He's got a 29-7 professional record, while Pedro Munhoz is 19-5-1. We've got 401 minutes of cage time for each one of these gentlemen. They have both spent the exact same amount of time in the professional cage, while also being 2 days apart. It's so crazy that these guys are the same age, because Jose Aldo has been a champion ever since I started watching mixed martial arts regularly. And Pedro Munhoz is just now coming into his own, and we're starting to see him climb that bantamweight ladder and get very near the top. And it is going to be interesting who takes the next step here, because both of these guys are 34 years old. It's just one of these guys has been fighting at a higher level for a much longer period of time. So if we look at the UFC experience here, we see 17 UFC fights for Jose Aldo and 15 for Pedro Munhoz. We got an 11-6 record for Jose, 9-5 with a no contest for Pedro. We got 120 more minutes in the UFC cage. So Jose Aldo has been fighting a higher percentage of his minutes in the mixed martial arts game. Almost 75% of them have been in the UFC cage, while for Pedro Munhoz, it's like about 38%. So definitely Jose Aldo has been fighting at a much higher level. And I wanted to bring up one little stat here that would illustrate that for you guys. If we look at Jose Aldo, we will find how long Jose Aldo has been a champion, right? And we need to go back to the WEC days to find out when he won his championship. And it was back here, 2009, November 11th or November 18th, 2009. He won the WEC championship from Mike Brown when he had a 15-1 record going into that fight. So he was the challenger. He won that fight, and he became a champion on November 18th, 2009. What was Pedro Munhoz doing on November 11th, 2009? Pedro Munhoz on September 26th, 2009 was 2-0. So Jose Aldo has been a champion or fighting at the championship level in the UFC during, I would say, let's have a look here. So 25 fights for Pedro Munhoz. So the last 23 fights of Pedro Munhoz's career, Jose Aldo has either been a championship or been a champion or fighting for championships or been a top 3 or a top 5 guy. So Pedro Munhoz's entire career, Jose Aldo has been at the absolute highest level. So this, in my opinion, is going to be a step up for Pedro Munhoz because Jose Aldo not only has been doing this longer, not only does he have 11 more pro fights, not only has he been a champion since Pedro Munhoz had 2 professional fights, but, you know, we're talking about a guy that really does still seem to have the skill set. And normally what you would see in this situation is Pedro Munhoz being the younger guy, but he's not the younger guy. He is right there with Jose Aldo, and he's actually 2 days older than Jose Aldo. Let's look at the finish stats here. As we see, Jose Aldo is finishing 62% of his pro wins, 59% by KO and 3% by sub, while we see that Pedro Munhoz is finishing more of his wins as a professional by submission, as he's got 42% of his wins are by sub, 26% by KO, for a 68% finish rate as a pro. And in his 9 UFC wins, Pedro Munhoz has 3 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, and 3 wins by decision. And we see that Jose Aldo has got 4 wins by knockout and 7 wins by decision in the UFC. And if we look at how these guys lose, Pedro Munhoz has never been finished in his professional career, and he's never even been knocked down in his 15 UFC fights. Pedro Munhoz is legendarily tough. This dude is extremely tough. While Jose Aldo, in his 7 professional losses, has been finished in 5 of them, 4 times by knockout, 1 time by submission. So yeah, 71% of the time that Jose Aldo loses, it is inside the distance. And Pedro Munhoz, when he wins, it's 68% of the time inside the distance. So I think if you see one of these guys finish inside the distance, it'll be Munhoz, because Munhoz just has never been finished before. And we're not really seeing Jose Aldo finish at a massive pace. He's only finished 4 out of his 11 UFC wins. And a lot of those fights have went 5 rounds, and he hasn't been able to get guys out of there in 5 rounds. And nobody's even knocked Munhoz down or finished him. So in my opinion, if you're on the Jose Aldo side here, that Jose Aldo by decision prop is going to be a very nice way to get even more value, because this fight is already around a pick'em. But if you are on the Aldo side here, I think Jose Aldo by decision is going to be a fantastic bet. Now that we've went through those finish stats, let's see what you guys have got for me here in the chat. Oh my God, my guy DFS by the numbers, Big Brady in the room, balls deep. That's how we do it on Uncle Weezy's channel when we break down these fights, baby. Balls deep. We got Jack Attack in the room. What's good, buddy? Thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate it. This is going to be a banger of a fight, Jack Attack. Can't wait to see what you're thinking on this one. We got the general in here taking notes. We got my guy Mystic Sosa, and we got Jack Attack again here, and Mystic Sosa. They're going back at it a little bit here. But you know what? That's all right, man. We like a little healthy rivalry here every once in a while. We're fight fans. We don't mind seeing a little bit of fighting going back and forth every once in a while. But when it comes to your Uncle Weezy, it's all love for all of you. I love all my nieces and nephews. So let's see. We got, don't go start filling the chat with your nonsense. And okay. We've got Dave saying fight, fight, fight. That's some high school shit there, but I would have been right there with you, Dave, trying to get people to fight. I was a bit of an instigator myself, man. Nothing wrong with that. That's why we're MMA fans. We like to see a little bit of a fight. We got Sosa going back with this guy. And we got, thanks, Uncle Weezy, Headley One. Thanks for coming in here, man, hanging out with us. I appreciate it. So let's get into these striking statistics here. And we'll talk a little bit about the numbers, and we'll talk a little bit about what's in the technical aspects here. Both of these guys are fantastic strikers. And in my opinion, when we get into the grappling stats and especially into the takedown defense of both of these gentlemen, the conclusion that I'm coming to here is that we're going to see this be mostly a striking battle. Probably 80 to 90% of this fight takes place in non-control time positions, in my opinion. So we've got Jose Aldo being the lower volume striker here. He's landing 3.29 significant strikes per minute out of 7.57 offered for a 43.44% striking accuracy. We see Pedro Munhoz throwing with a ton more volume here as he lands almost 2.3 significant strikes more per minute, landing 5.6, and he's throwing 5 more significant strike attempts per minute than Jose Aldo. So 5.6 landed, 12.74 offered, but the very same 44% striking accuracy that Aldo has. So right there, we're seeing a volume advantage for our guy Pedro Munhoz here. He is going to be the guy that is busier on the feet, and he also brings a lot of pressure and pace. We don't ever really see Pedro Munhoz taking a backward step. This guy walks forward. He tries to land that massive overhand right on you, and he is continuously coming at you with pressure and pace. He works the body, got great front kicks to the body, got great low leg kicks, and he throws a mean overhand right with super bad intentions. And there's nothing that Pedro Munhoz likes more than to drag his opponent into a brawl, into just throwing every punch with full force. If you go back and you watch that Cody Garbrandt fight, an amazing fight where they basically just said, all right, we're just going to swing as hard as we can until one of us drops. And Garbrandt landed several really hard shots to Pedro Munhoz. None of them fazed him. He ate them like pancakes, and then he knocked out Cody Garbrandt right at the end of that first round. Pedro Munhoz is somebody who loves to be in a brawl, and he thrives there. While Jose Aldo is a lot more technical. And in this situation, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. This is going to be one of the smallest guys that Jose Aldo has ever fought. So he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's going to try to use that length and try to hold off Munhoz's pressure by cutting angles, by fighting off of his back foot every once in a while, and really throwing down the pipe with power, because Pedro Munhoz is quite hittable. The 58.82% striking defense, in my mind, is a little bit deceptive, because he is getting hit almost 6 times per minute. So he does kind of drag his opponents into these high volume brawls, but he really trusts his chin, does Pedro Munhoz. This guy can seriously take a punch. He's never been knocked down in the UFC in 15 fights. And this guy's been fighting at a high level. He's been fighting serious power punchers, Cody Garbrandt being one of them. Frankie Edgar, he went 5 rounds with. This guy has been fighting some of the toughest competition at the bantamweight division has to offer, and he's never been finished in his pro career, and he's never even been knocked down in the UFC. So Pedro Munhoz uses pressure, pace. He relies on his chin. He will take 1 or 2 to give one, but that may not be the best recipe against a guy like Jose Aldo, because Jose Aldo hits extremely hard, and I am not sure if we have seen somebody that hits as hard as Aldo fight Pedro Munhoz, because this guy Aldo doesn't throw a lot of volume. He throws 7.57, and his opponents are throwing 9.84. So he is used to being out-volumed by his opponents. And then check this out. For a guy with a great record of 11-6 in the UFC, Jose Aldo only lands 3.29 significant strikes a minute, but he absorbs 4. That's a negative 0.7 significant strike differential. You don't expect to see that out of a former champion that defended his belt successfully, something like 6 or 7 times in a row. You would expect to see a positive significant strike differential. But the reality is that Jose Aldo doesn't need to land as many significant strikes as his opponent does in order to win, because he's the one landing the eye-catching strikes. He's the one who's throwing those straight punches down the middle that split the guard and really bust up people's faces. He throws mean body kicks, and he throws mean calf kicks and leg kicks. This guy will absolutely chew up your front leg. If you go back and you watch that Peter Yan fight, Jose Aldo destroyed Peter Yan's front legs so bad that the second and third rounds in their entirety, Peter Yan fought from the southpaw stance. And I don't think you want to trade leg kicks with Jose Aldo. I think Jose Aldo wins that one every single time. And the thing about Aldo is that not only is his leg kick offense very good, he also is excellent at checking those low leg kicks. He's been at Nova União forever. Guy's a former soccer player as well. I mean, when he kicks, it hurts. And he is not just good offensively with the leg kicks, he checks them too. So he's a dangerous guy to be in that low leg kick battle with. And I don't think Pedro Munhoz is going to thrive there. I don't think we're going to see Pedro Munhoz have as much success with the low leg kick in this fight as he did in the Jimmy Rivera fight. I see this being a very close striking battle with Pedro Munhoz putting on the pressure, walking forward. But I see Jose Aldo being more accurate, landing the cleaner, heavier strikes, and cutting angles and effectively fighting off of his back foot to frustrate Pedro Munhoz here. So we've got the grappling stats here. Let's take a look at these. Now, like I said before, I don't really see this being a grappling match. And I'll just start with the grappling defense in order to illustrate that point. So Pedro Munhoz in his 15 UFC fights has faced 46 takedown attempts. His opponents have only been successful 9 times. Now, Pedro Munhoz has only been controlled for 3.26% of his UFC cage time. That's 154 minutes total. So that would be 4.5 minutes that Pedro Munhoz has been in the cage. He's been controlled by his opponents, and he's been taken down 9 times. And he's had 46 takedowns attempted against him. What this means is even when you do take Pedro Munhoz down, he gets right back up. Probably less than 15 seconds of control time per takedown there is what I would guess with all those takedown attempts against. And then you add in clinch control time. Pedro Munhoz is not a guy that you are going to take down and hold down. And he's not a guy you even want to try to take down sometimes, simply because that guillotine that he has is so dangerous. If you shoot it on a double leg with your head on the side, you are asking to get choked out. So I don't see Jose Aldo, who only has 22 takedown attempts here in his 17 UFC fights, and he's only gotten 12 takedowns in his 17 UFC fights. I don't see him going to the wrestling here because I believe it would be a fool's errand. I don't see him getting the takedowns, and I really don't see Pedro Munhoz really having to worry about Aldo shooting in on him. Aldo is not an active wrestler. And then if we look at Munhoz, we see a little more commitment to the wrestling on the offensive side. 33 takedown attempts in 15 fights. He's only gotten 7 of them. And then we look, Jose Aldo's only been controlled 12.13% of his 280 minutes in the cage. So that'd be about 30 minutes of control time, I would say. And 30 minutes on 8 takedown attempts. But that's 70, or on 8 successful takedowns and 74 takedown attempts. That is not much. That is less than 30 seconds per takedown attempt on Jose Aldo. And if you go by takedown, it's not a significant amount of his career. And Jose Aldo actually has never even had a submission attempt against him in his UFC career. That's something else. That says something about how effective his ground game is once he gets there. His opponents have never even tried to submit him. That's how good he is on the ground. And then we're looking at an 89% takedown defense. So why would Pedro Munhoz, who can probably have a lot of success using his pressure, pace, and volume, why would he tire himself out going for takedowns that he's not going to get, frankly? I don't think that would be a good idea for him. I think because of these numbers, the 89% takedown defense for Aldo, the 80% takedown defense and great guillotine that Munhoz has, I don't envision this fight going to the grappling. I see us trying to handicap this fight as 2 strikers and who wins the striking battle. We're going to have to take a look and see what you guys think here. Let's see. We've got, that fight was CTE Wonderland for Mystic Sosa. We're talking about that Garbrandt Munhoz fight. Man, did they beat the shit out of each other. And you know what? And if you guys haven't watched that fight recently, go back and watch it. It's super fun. It's less than a round. It only takes 1 round, and you'll really see how Pedro Munhoz really thrives in a brawl. It's a masterclass performance. They both threw down. They both that was a fight for the fans. The fans loved it. I loved it. That was a great one. Go watch that one. Garbrandt, Munhoz. Thomas Howard, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out with your Uncle Weezy here. We're going balls deep on this fight. This is a really good one here, man. We got Sosa saying that's some legit defense. Yeah, both of these guys have got amazing takedown defense. And Munhoz's guillotine just adds another level to that takedown defense. So, yeah, man, this is going to be a very interesting fight, but I do see it taking place probably 90% of the time in the striking realm in the center of the cage. Highest level of opposition so far from Munhoz. Aldo getting pretty long in the tooth now, though. Worried about the cardio in the third. That is a very, very good point, and I agree with you 100%. The third round will be difficult because of the pace that Munhoz puts on. He does move forward. He does walk forward, but this is nothing that Jose Aldo is not used to already. He's seen this kind of opponent before. He's dealt with it. He does fight well off his back foot, and he does know how to constantly move, cut angles. He is very good defensively. Both of these guys, right around 59% striking defense, but I think Jose Aldo in particular is going to be the better defensive striker in this one. He's just a little lower output. He's a little more precise, and he keeps his hands high at all times. We got Headley one saying, why did Aldo throw only 6 leg kicks against Vera in his last fight? I haven't taped it yet. Well, the third round, Headley one, was Aldo had Vera pretty much backpacked for about 4 minutes of it. So the last 4 out of the 15 minutes were taking place completely in control time positions, and there were no leg kicks or strikes being thrown from the legs. In addition to that, Vera pressured the entire time. So when you're pressuring your opponent, it's very hard to throw those low leg kicks because you constantly have to be cutting angles out of the way to get out of the way of the pressure of your opponent. It's much easier to throw jabs off your back foot than it is to throw leg kicks. Or maybe you start throwing those teep kicks or those front kicks to the body to kind of keep the distance of your opponent. We might see some of that out of Munhoz and Aldo. But Vera really pressured Jose Aldo in that fight, and that didn't allow him to be able to get off a lot of that low leg kick offense like we saw him get off in the Jan fight when he was having success. And, and a lot of people remember that fight being really one-sided, but not until really like late 4th round, early 5th round did Jan really start getting off. Jan had a great first round, but the second and the third rounds were very close. So that's what I've got so far for you guys for the grappling statistics. So let's look now at the strength of schedule metrics that I got right here. So my metrics are showing better overall, better wins, and better losses for Jose Aldo. The average record of the fighter that Jose Aldo fights here has a 10.65 win and 4.94 loss record for 15.59 total fights and a 2.15 win-to-loss ratio. While for Munhoz, it's 6.47 wins, 3.6 losses, 10 total fights, and a 1.8 ratio. So you see the ratio 0.35 higher for Jose Aldo, and his average opponent is more experienced, having almost more than 5 more fights. And if we look at the wins, we see the ratio of 1.9 for Aldo, 1.79 for Munhoz, very close. But when we look at the total fights, we see that Jose Aldo is beating the far more experienced competition at 16.64 total fights rather than Munhoz for 7.44. So it's 4.78 wins, 2.67 losses for Munhoz is the average record of the guy that he beats, while Jose Aldo is beating a guy that almost has 11 wins and 6 losses. So much more impressive on the win side for Aldo. And then we look at the ratio in the losses. The guy that beats Aldo has an average record of 10.17 and 3.5 for a 2.9 win-to-loss ratio. So he's only losing to the elite competition here in the UFC. While actually Munhoz is losing to more experienced competition at 16.2 total fights to Aldo's 13.67, but the ratio is not nearly as good as it's 1 less as it's a 2.9 ratio for Aldo, a 1.89 ratio for Munhoz. So yeah, Aldo definitely has the strength of schedule advantage here and has fought the tougher competition. And I brought up that statistic from earlier that Jose Aldo became WEC champ in 2009 when Pedro Munhoz was still just 2-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. So yeah, not only has Aldo fought the tougher competition, but he's been fighting at a much higher level for a very long time. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been fighting as a champion or pretty much championship level bouts for the last 12 years of his career. So yeah, we cannot take Jose Aldo lightly here. So let me go through my notes here. And as we've just went through all those stats, I want to kind of just go over what I think are the advantages for each fighter here. So we're going to start with Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo has a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got over 120 more minutes of cage time in the UFC. He's been fighting better competition for a much longer time. He's got fantastic leg kick offense and defense. He throws with power. He's got an incredible left hook to the body that he uses quite a bit. He definitely is a striker that will throw equally to the legs, to the body, and to the head. Very smart, very technical, very well schooled, and fantastic footwork as well. He's got 89% takedown defense, so it's almost pointless to try to take down Jose Aldo. And he's got a better strength of schedule overall, wins and losses than Pedro Munhoz. Now, for the advantages for Pedro Munhoz, that he throws crazy volume. He's attempting 12.74 significant strikes a minute, and he's landing 5.6, while Aldo is only throwing 7.57 significant strikes a minute and landing 3.29. So we see that, not only is Munhoz landing about 2.3 more significant strikes a minute than Aldo is, but he's also throwing over 5 more significant strikes attempts per minute. So he's much busier. He walks forward constantly, and he just puts that pace on you where if you're not well conditioned, he can break you late if he doesn't hit a big shot before then. He's got really nice power in his overhand right, does Munhoz. He's got great body and low leg kicks as well. He's a credentialed Brazilian jiu-jitsu player. He's got a top-notch guillotine that he uses to defend takedown shots. And he's got over 800 Brazilian jiu-jitsu matches prior to being a mixed martial artist. He's got 0.78 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So he is active when he is on the ground trying to finish fights. And he's got about 40-something% of his pro wins have come by submission. So he is very, very active with his submission offense. And he's an equal opportunity winner, as he's got in the UFC 3 wins by decision, 3 wins by submission, and 3 wins by knockout. There's that constant pressure and pace that Munhoz brings that makes him so dangerous. And then he's also got excellent takedown defense in his own right. It's not 89% like Aldo, but it is 80.43%. He's successfully defended 37 of 46 takedown attempts against him. So that's a really good sample size for the amount of takedowns that he is facing. So we know that he is very good defensively. So let's see what you guys are thinking here. We've got Hammering Hog in the room. What's up, dude? Weezy, what's your favorite 4-leg 1-800 gambler degenerate parlay for me? Okay, so just off the top of my head, let's try the Lewis Gane fight doesn't go to decision. Let's try the Torres Hill fight does go to decision. Let's bet Johnny Munhoz Jr. money line and the Alonzo Menafield money line. 4-leg parlay from your Uncle Weezy. Smooth Jimmy approved. Ship it. Let's take it to the bank, baby. That's your 4-leg parlay from your Uncle Weezy. I love it. I'm going to bet it as soon as I get off the air. That's the degenerate 4-leg 1-800 gambler parlay that we do here on the Balls Deep Breakdown. So you guys, let's look at some bets here. One of the bets that I know that Smooth Jimmy is going to be on this week that he really likes is going to be the fight goes to decision for this particular fight. Both of these guys have a lot of power, but I see this being largely a striking match. We've seen Jose Aldo knocked out before, but you know, it doesn't happen often. And let's actually just look here at the advanced stats, and we will go through and we will see the people who have finished Jose Aldo in his career, and we'll see if we can figure out a way that this does finish inside the distance, because I don't think it's gonna. I see this fight definitely going to decision because both of these guys are legendarily tough. His loss to Frankie Edgar was a decision. His loss to Aljamain Sterling was a decision. His loss to John Dodson was a decision. His loss to Jimmy Rivera was a decision. And then Sun Sao, also a decision. So, you know, I mean, you're not finishing Pedro Munhoz. That's just how it goes. That guy does not get finished. Peter Yan finished Jose Aldo, but that was in the 5th round. This is a 3-round fight. We got Marlon Moraes. It was a loss by split decision. A lot of people thought Aldo won that fight, including me. We got a unanimous decision loss to the featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski. We've got 2 straight losses by knockout to Max Holloway. Both of those came late in the 3rd round, though. And, you know, this was in 2017, 4 years ago. Max Holloway is a very similar fighter to Pedro Munhoz in terms of that he's a great boxer and he throws a ton of volume. However, Max Holloway is way bigger and longer than Pedro Munhoz is. So this is what we were talking about when we were talking about how Jose Aldo really has been fighting much bigger gentlemen than Pedro Munhoz. If we look at Jose Aldo's career, we can look at, like, for instance, Marlon Vera in the last fight. Guy's got a 70-inch reach. You know, he's got a 5-inch reach advantage. So that was a guy that he was just fighting that had the same reach as him. We see a guy, these losses to Max Holloway. Max Holloway has a 69-inch reach, and he's 5'11". So, yeah, he was able to box at length with Jose Aldo, wear him down, and get him out of there. But I know that Smooth Jimmy is on the over 2.5 in this fight. Now, we see that the over 2.5 is minus 158 here. I love that because on DraftKings right now, I think that this line is much wider. Right now, the best value, if we look at the fight goes to decision right here, the best line is on FanDuel at minus 158, while we see a lot of these other books have it at minus 200, minus 187, minus 182. Dude, both of these guys are so incredibly tough, man. You're not knocking out Pedro Munhoz unless you bring a shovel or a brick into the cage with you. And as far as I know, they don't let you do that yet. So you're not going to knock out this guy Munhoz. Aldo, you basically need to murder him to get him out of there. That dude is so tough. And, you know, Pedro Munhoz is not Max Holloway. This is the bantamweight division. We're talking about Max Holloway, a guy who's been fighting champions at 155 and has been a champion at 145. He's just a much bigger guy than Pedro Munhoz is. So I see this fight going to decision because I like Aldo here. I think he's going to land the heavier strikes. I think he's the more skilled striker. I think he has more diversity in the way that he can hurt Munhoz. In order to land low leg kicks, you need to be very close. And I think that Pedro Munhoz, if he does that, he's going to get countered very hard. And he's also going to get some of those low leg kicks checked. And, you know, like I say, I think that Munhoz is one of his best weapons are those low leg kicks, but I just don't think it's a good idea to play that game with Jose Aldo. He's been playing it with the best of them. And he's one of the originals in the UFC that we saw really start to chew up people's lead leg and do it with confidence back when a lot of people weren't using these kind of techniques. So I see Aldo landing the heavier strikes, being the more dynamic striker, being a little bit better defensively here, and being able to keep this at a range where he can hit Munhoz and Munhoz can't hit him. And if he does that successfully and avoids the grappling exchanges, I can see him winning a decision here. But I believe that there's a lot of value on that over 2.5 because I think that the fight goes to decision is a better line. Obviously, you're going to get more value there. But if we do see somebody get finished, it'll probably be Jose Aldo, and it'll probably be late in the third round. It might just be where he wilts under the pressure, like he did against Holloway twice, like he did against Peter Yan. But like I say, those were late in the fight. So I'm liking the over 2.5 here. This is going to be a hell of a fight. Two of the top-notch bantamweights in probably the deepest division that the UFC has to offer right now. I can't wait for this one. The pick is Jose Aldo by decision, and I'm going to be betting that over 2.5 at minus 158 on FanDuel. I think that's a great line. There's a lot of value there. What do you guys think? What do you guys got for me here? So we got, let me see. All right. Hammering Hog saying, bro, didn't even think of some of those. You are a machine. Dude, you're a machine for hanging out with me. But dude, Brady and I start breaking down these numbers Friday and Saturday of the week before. I have to have my data entry done by Saturday night so that I can be ready for Stat Diggers on Sunday. So here we are on Thursday, man. This information is like 5 days old for me. So I've been going over and over and over it again and again and again, so I can come up with some of those parlays off the top of my head. Let's hope it hits, man. I hope all those hit. We got the general taking notes as usual. We got Hammering Hog. Facts noting down this gold. Weezy, your analytical mind paired with the discipline must mean you are the profitable overall. That's the goal, brother, and I feel like you would make a great role model. Well, I'm kind of new to gambling. I'm not new to DFS. I am definitely up overall. I've had 3 really big results. Earlier this year, I entered one lineup into the Haymaker. It was actually the last card that Chiesa headlined against Neil Magny, and I took 3rd place in the Haymaker. That was like $750. I'm still gambling pretty small. My unit size is fairly small compared to a lot of the guys that you see handicapping online. But I am a data analyst. I do take a very analytical approach. So I'm pretty conservative with my betting. So because I've had 3 big hits over the years, over the last couple of years, I'm definitely profitable. But I'm not as consistent as I would like to be. I'd like to, because what's happening is I might lose 3-4 cards in a row and then have one big one. What I'd rather do is win 4 cards in a row and then have one bad loss, but be winning more than I'm losing. So I'm still here trying to learn with you guys. I'm still new to this game. There's a lot of guys that have been doing this way longer than I have. And when it comes to straight out picking bets and picking fights, you should probably be listening to them more than you listen to me. However, what I try to do is just bring all this data to the table. I try to go over as many angles as I can. And then after we watch this stuff together, after we flesh out these stats together, then people can make their own decision. I'm not here so that you'll bet what I bet every time and you should just be tailing me. No, man, we've all got our own minds. We all make up our own minds about how we're going to make the decisions, how we make what's a safe bet for us. And everybody has different criteria in order to determine, this is what I think a safe bet. This is what I think is a safe bet. I just hope you come to me so that we go through all the stats. You look at as many angles as possible. And then together, after looking at all these angles, after fleshing it out, bouncing some ideas off each other, then we can make our decisions. And I don't care if you follow me or not. But I just like to let you know that when I come to a decision, that I've thought about as many things as possible. And that decision is made after a lot of research and a lot of looking at the numbers and a lot of looking at tape. So yeah, thanks, Hammer and Hog. I appreciate that. But yeah, long story short, I'd like to be more profitable, but I have been profitable over my entire gambling career. I'm up money, but I want to be up more, man. I want more. I'm greedy. We got my man Brady saying Uncle Weezy is everyone's favorite uncle for sure. Dude, thanks, man. And yeah, dude, you're all my nieces and nephews. Your Uncle Weezy loves each and every one of you. Dude, Brady, same goes for you, man. You are another role model of mine, brother. And he says, thanks, Hammer and Hog, man. We appreciate the love, Hammer and Hog. It means a lot. And he's saying here, so lucky to be analyzing these scraps with you, Sharp, and very humble cappers. Half the cappers talk themselves up, and you guys let your success speak at DFS by the numbers and Uncle Weezy. Yeah, thanks, man. It's just I like to think of it as just hard work, man. Anything in life you do, If you put in the work, you'll do better than the people who don't put in the work. Unless, of course, those guys are somebody's son or in the lucky sperm club. But that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes people get handed shit. You know, let's earn what we make. You know, let's do the research. Let's do the hard work. Let's dip into these stats, make good decisions, and over the long run, let's make some money. Let's make some money off of these bookies, man, because that's what we're here to do. Listen, we've broken down this fight. The pick is Jose Aldo by decision for your Uncle Weezy. I'm going to be betting the over 2.5 on FanDuel. I think that's a fantastic line. It's Smooth Jimmy's lock of the week. But just remember, when you're right 52% of the time, you're wrong 48% of the time. Always gamble safely and don't lose more than you can actually lose. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for spending your Thursday night with me on Balls Deep Breakdown. I will be back next week with some more fights unless I find something else to break down this week. I want to shout out Brandon Ortega. He messaged me on Twitter and asked me to break down the Aldo Munhoz fight last night. So that's why I'm breaking down this fight. Brandon, I hope you got a chance to check this out and enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed this, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. That's how you really make me happy. That's how you pay me back for the work that I do. That's all I ask of you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of Balls Deep Breakdown. God bless each and every one of you, and I will be back next time. Thank you.